tonight's LinkedIn Live for the IDC's Career and Collaborations group that's on LinkedIn. We're live here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Um, IDC stands for what is it? The Institute for Diversity Certification. And gosh, I've been with these guys for about 4 years now. I better get that straight. And it's been a great organization. I have been able to have the opportunity to get my certification from that, and I now see that they are posting, which I think is great. They are posting some new refreshers out there because we have seen in the DEI space uh, where there are rebranding going on, where certain words are being changed around with this pushback on these three scary letters of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's great work that the IDC is doing. So those of you that are members, get in there and take a look at the latest programming that's going on, or those that you are interested in that, please make sure that you check out the membership there. I'm excited about this. I know this person quite well, which will become evident right away. But I have a bio that I'm going to read. But before we do that, Ria, Dr. Hord, do you want to introduce yourself, say hello to the group, anything you want to say? And then we'll...
Yes. Hi, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be located. My name is Dr. Rhea Horton. If you haven't had the chance yet to meet me, so happy to meet you and happy to be here tonight to learn more about branding. I am the founder and CEO of Career Bliss LLC that focuses on supporting women of color in the corporate space as well as early career professionals just learning how to acclimate to, again, the corporate environment, and branding is one of them. So I look forward to learning more from Russell today and glad to be here and that you all are joining us as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So as Ria mentioned, we're talking about personal branding today, how it continues to evolve, or maybe not. We'll get into that, particularly around hospitality, because that's where our speaker comes from. But I know that Ria and I have a lot of followers from the DEI space, so we will make sure that we talk about rebranding around that. Um, and then why visibility, authenticity, and consistency, which is something I learned from this person, why that's important. And so, as I said, I know this person quite well, but I have his bio here that I'm gonna read a brief one. As a hospitality entrepreneur, Russell is the host and producer of a global top 30 hospitality podcast, On Air with Russell Hotels, a live hospitality talk show dedicated to hospitality professionals. It's a great platform for discussing key trends, topics, and ways to stay relevant. He does this very well. He is someone I look to for this. Russell's goals are helping hospitality brands develop new business, more effectively reach their guests or clients, and find their voice in a noisy digital space. Last year, he was recognized as being in the top 100 social media influencers. And I know he's received more accolades than that because I've seen them go across the screen. So, whatever I didn't mention, Russell, you make sure you fill in the blanks there. And if that were not enough, Russell is a very dear friend of mine for many, many years. We do not have enough time to talk about how my team was whooping up on his team in high school, but that gives you a little bit of context of how long we've known each other. He is on my personal board of directors. He's the first person I went to when I was trying to figure out moving from job to job. He did that so often, and I was in awe of that. Used to make fun of him initially, but then I realized the benefits he was getting out of that in our world, and it garnered him a lot of expertise in what he's going to talk about today. Uh, he moved from Southern California to Northern California, and that just blew my mind. As someone who came from the East Coast, but really grew up in the West Coast, and just going, 8 hours away, that just blew my mind, and that inspired me to then go back to the East Coast, which where I am today. Um, and I think this is hilarious and pertinent for today. We used to race, we were racing each other to get to 500 contacts on LinkedIn. And now this guy is sitting around 27,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. So, Russell Edmond coming to the stage. Did I miss something? How are you today, sir? Come on, take yourself off mute and say hello.
I'm good, Victor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I didn't think I was on mute, but no, it's all good. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Actually, in Houston for the last couple of days, doing some work and helping my daughter move as well. So you actually caught me at a good time where I had to take a break from her because she's a bit of a slave driver, if you will. Uh, but um, but no, all the stuff that you mentioned, I think is pretty accurate. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. I thank you so much. Sometimes I listen to that stuff and they can't be talking about me, but I guess maybe it is. I don't know, but no, thank you for allowing me to come on and talk, as well as Miss Doctor Rhea Horton. I appreciate you allowing me to come on. And one thing Victor did not mention is that show me your hands, Victor. Show me your hands. Uh, Move your so I can see the ring.
Oh, you talking about this? You talking about
Okay,
this?
that's a reminder of what Victor talked about. His team always beating our butts is what he said, right? So that's a championship ring. It's called CIF ring, which is the top in the state, right? Their team won. They beat our butt on their way to win that ring right there. Now Victor's been wearing that ring for about 40. I'm gonna say about 43 years. Okay, so every time I see him, I try not to even mention it. I try not to even look at it, but he always wears it, and I think it's just a dig on me. But anyway, we'll talk. We'll move on from that. But thank you so much, Victor, for allowing me to come on and you wearing that ring like you always do.
All right. I'm gonna skip over that. If we have time at the end, I'm gonna come back. Is this there's another story behind that ring, but
Okay. Okay.
behind this ring.
Okay.
Uh, so without further ado, let's get to the questions. So let's go big picture first. Starting out, big picture. What are the major personal branding trends that you're seeing that are starting to emerge this year in 2025?
Well, and I don't know if they're new or just people maybe starting to pay more attention to them, and that they've been mentioned. And you kind of led with those, and there was a three: visibility, authenticity, and consistency. Those are things that I learned a while back, right? So, like, just not even before like we started doing things on social media, it was all about being consistent, right? It was all about being consistent, not necessarily authenticity because that's a new term, I guess, and visibility maybe, maybe we're showing up differently. So as a let's just say as a because my background, like Victor's background, is within hospitality. We started off as managers and kind of worked our way up to kind of where we are today. And I remember being a sales manager, and you wanted to be consistent with following up with your clients, right? You wanted to be in front of them. You took them to lunch, you entertained them or whatever, because that's how that's how they knew who you were, right? Well, what happens when you're no longer around? I mean, or maybe you can't meet with them anymore? Because a lot of things have changed, right? Where we're not doing as many dining opportunities as we used to be, or taking care of our clients, or going on sales calls, which we used to do. We can walk in any building and do sales calls. Well, now you can't do that anymore. You have to be announced, right? Well, what happens during those times when you can't necessarily be in front of them? So I came with this thing like having a presence without being present. Okay.
Mm,
And how do you do that? That's with social media, right? So I travel all the time. So I'm traveling now, but 2 weeks ago, or the last 3 weeks, I was in, where was I? I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and some other cities, Toledo, Ohio, Palm Beach, Florida. You name it, I was there, right? Well, you meet with these people, you have one-on-one appointments, right? So these are meeting planning events that I go to. Shout out to North Star meetings group. So I go to those kind of religiously, and you have these one-on-one appointments that they set up for you. And you're learning about the hotel itself. You're learning about your potential partners as salespeople, either with convention visitors bureaus or hotels or whatever type of supplier within the hospitality space. And then they're learning about you, like, okay, what kind of meetings do you have? What kind of meetings do you, produce or whatever? So you're trying to fill each other out within about 13 minutes. Okay. That's like speed dating on steroids. Okay.
Mm.
So within 13 minutes, you got to find out about them. They got to find out about you. Okay. But after that's all said and done, what happens at that point? Because we all um, eventually going to go back home or go back to our offices or do another trip or whatever. So do you forget about those people? What do you do? So how do you have that presence without being present in front of them? And that's the thing where visibility, being your authentic self, that's a new buzzword, be your authentic self. I hate that. I kind of hate that term, but it's true. So be visible, be in front of as many people as you can, as often as you can. Be authentic. Everything doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And I'll probably get in that a little later. Everything does not have to be perfect, meaning people, I can't just show up on camera and looking the way I do, and I got to be this, or I got to have this camera, or I got to have that. You know what? If I thought like that, I would never be to where I am right now. I guarantee you, I would not be where I am right now if I thought like that. I just say, you know what? I'm gonna go for it, and I went for it. And consistency. You can't just show up one time and think that all of a sudden you're gonna be this. Because I'm not a celebrity, okay? I'm not one of those people that can post one time and get a million people following me. Okay. I wish that was the case. I mean, Victor alluded to when we were several years back, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we were, big on or new to LinkedIn, and we were trying to grow our followers, right? And we were like competing. We had roughly about less than 500. We had less than 500 people, and thought we were just hot crap at that time because we had 500 people. Well, now fast forward, yeah, I've amassed about 27,000 people or whatever, but that came with being consistent. That came with being visible, and that came with being authentic. So there you go. I hope that kind of.
Guys, that's a good start, and I think it's a good segue. Before we get to that, the Rhea, did you, were you able to get it onto the other or get, I guess, on the careers
Yes.
collaborations group?
Mhm.
Okay, good. All right. I'll pull up LinkedIn, see if we have any comments coming in there. So those of you that are listening in, if you have questions, drop them there on YouTube, or here on LinkedIn, and we'll look for those. All right, go ahead, Rhea.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Russell, for sharing your three trends or thoughts that I know we're going to get into some of it in a little bit. What I thought was interesting, also, Victor, for us to discuss towards the end is even his thought on authenticity and how that might segue into a conversation for our DE&I folks who might be out there wondering how to best apply this, how they can show up in this space and feel like their authentic self as well. But with that, what I really want to hear more about is authenticity over perfection, which I know is one of your areas. You just talked about it just a smidgen ago. And of course, we sometimes live in this world where we have to show up as perfect. And if we can't show up as perfect, then we're not going to do it. And somehow in our minds, we make that seem to be the better option rather than just doing it as best as you can. So my question to you is, can you share maybe some examples or some type of experiences that either you've had or people you've worked with had where they were able to show up as their authentic self, get over kind of wanting to feel perfect, because we just know that that's a lot of pressure that any professional can feel in like the corporate sense that if you're going to show up, you got to be perfect. And if you can't, then don't do it. What are your thoughts to that?
Well, if I waited for me to look perfect and to be perfect, I would never. It would never happen. But audiences or people they crave relatability. They want to be able to relate to someone. And everyone, if you look at truly who you are, there's nobody perfect, right? We get caught up in the Instagrammable moments and things like that in social media. Now, social media can be a double-edged sword. It can be one of those things that's great because you get a lot of information out, But then people can always make comments and be really nitpicky on things too, depending on what you're looking at, right? So I try to cut out that noise, but I don't let, if there's noise at all, I don't let it get in the way of what I'm trying to do. And each individual they have to deal with it the best way they can. But I'll just say that me, I had to cut out that noise, right? I just had to say, you know what, for business to business, I'm gonna basically concentrate on maybe one platform, and that's LinkedIn. LinkedIn and maybe YouTube are probably my two choices when it comes to business, because I get the variety, or the bulk of my business comes from LinkedIn. When I mean getting business, I mean, people that want to partner with me, or they want to collaborate, or they want a meeting, or they want to do, they have questions about hospitality or whatever it is. 99% of that stuff comes from LinkedIn. So and do I get, I mean, is there hate mail out there? Does there stuff that comes across? Oh yeah, every now and then. But I've always heard, if no one's hating on you, you're not popping. Someone said, a rapper said that somewhere. I don't remember where that was, but if no one's hating on you, you ain't popping. So I try to, think about that as well, because there's always going to be some noise out there, but I don't let that bother me, because at the end of the day, I got to pay my bills. Okay. And paying my bills, is basically doing meetings and making sure hotels and brands are visible within the hospitality space. So your imperfections are not a bad thing. Okay. If they even are imperfections, or just, maybe a cop out. So, because somebody will come out with a bunch of reasons why we can't do something. I mean, I've talked to many people just to come on my show, right? Just to come on air with Russell of Hotels. I would just ask them, hey, salespeople within the hospitality space. I'll meet them at wherever I meet them, and I say, hey, you have a good story, and I'd like to have you come on my show. Oh no, that's not something I can do. Maybe you can ask somebody else. A salesperson should never turn down the opportunity to talk about themselves, talk about their brand, who they represent, and kind of brag about themselves, brag about their property or whatever. Because I deal with a lot of hotel people, talk about their hotels. Maybe they're undergoing a renovation, or maybe a destination person, somebody that represents a destination. Maybe they have a new, I don't know, amusement park, or they just open up a Top Golf or something like that. I mean, those are things that they talk about, and people will have interest in, right? It's not necessarily them, but we got to remember the brand does start with each individual person, right? So people will buy me before they buy the hotel that I'm representing, just for an example, right? They're not going to buy the XYZ hotel down the street. They're going to, because the XYZ hotel is not going to call them. They're not going to come solicit them. They're not going to bring them goodies. I'm the one that's going to do all that stuff. I'm going to take them to lunch. I'm going to wine and dine them. So you have to make sure you represent yourself first and foremost, right? So when I first started, doing the daily check-in or on air with Russell of Hotels, yeah, I did know my lighting was off. I know that, maybe the sound was not as perfect as it should be, right? But did that allow me to, did that say, you know what, maybe I need to wait till I get $200 more and I can buy that, that lavalier microphone that I can put, or the lapel microphone, so I can put right here so people can hear me better. No, because you have something to say. You still have something to say. So let's just go ahead and say it. So don't get caught up on being too perfect, because if you wait for that, that day will never come.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell told me that years ago. I didn't start doing video until really this year.
Yeah.
He had been telling me that, and there's someone that I follow, the gentleman Ramit Sethi, who wrote the book "I Will Teach You to Be Rich," and I was watching some of his older stuff, and for many years, and then he had a Netflix a program out, and I ended up getting into one of his cohorts, one of his programs this year, and in there he was showing some of his very first videos. He said, and they were just as Russell was describing them, just like bare bones, just starting out. But look where he is, where he is today. So absolutely. Russell, you and I talked about video being it, right? That's the thing. That's you talked to me about there, just doing those little checking in, the what the hell moments. That segment was just getting in. I'm just going to hop on here for 5 minutes, and he was just getting himself out there because video is king, right? And that's the fastest way to build emotional connections and presence. Can you talk about that? What's your advice to someone hesitant about putting themselves on camera?
Just do it. Just do it. It's like Nike said, just do it. No, yeah, there's going to be some apprehension. Like I said, we want to look perfect. We want to sound perfect and all that. But I mean, the best advice I can give is kind of just do it, or maybe just practice first. You can record like on your phone. You get a tripod or whatever and just record before you actually go live. Record and see how you're going to look and see what you want to say and all those kind of things. Maybe that'll get some of the nervousness out. I didn't do that, right? I don't like see, and I'll tell you why I do live things instead of edited, because I don't like to edit. So I said, I'd rather just do it live. And if I make mistakes, I make mistakes. But that's me, right? I'm never going to say everything perfect. I'm never going to have proper diction or whatever the heck it is. That's just not me. I mean, I'm one of those, hey, this is it, and take me if you like me, take me. If not, whatever. Okay. But I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to continue to show up. No one's going to outwork me on social media when it comes to presenting myself, when it comes to being consistent, visible. I mean, those things are, no one's going to outwork me on that. And I'm making sure that that happens. Right. So I do a daily check-in 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I do on air with Russell of Hotels on Tuesday. So that's 5 days a week of me, right? So either you're gonna get tired of me or you're gonna just, if you can't beat him, join him, that kind of stuff. So, and thank God a lot of people have joined me. But yeah, video, and not necessarily long-term video, although I do the daily check-in, which is about 15 to 20 minutes. I do on air, which is close to an hour, right? But I'm trying to scale those back because a lot of times people don't have time for that. Now, if anyone follows me on LinkedIn, I've been doing these conversations. Basically, I call elevating your brand awareness through conversations, and those are basically broken down from a 15 to 20-minute video, just like Victor and I did back in Florida a couple months ago. Well, the conversation him and I had was about 15 to 20 minutes. But I had my producer, Bruce Jordan, the MJ of hotels. He was my producer, and he took all the footage, he edited and broke them down into 20 bite-sized reels, and they're about maybe 45 seconds to a minute long, right? So I was able to just put those out there, and then you get more coverage too, right? So I did 11 people, meaning I interviewed or had conversation with 11 people, and just think 11 people and multiply it by 20 each. Okay, so I have reels on each one of those people to the end of the year. I can do reels, and in fact, I've been posting them. I just posted one this morning as well. So the smaller bite size, just talking about like who I am, what I do, and how I can help. Those things are good, right? Because that gets people excited, and it's getting them to want more, to hear more about it, right? So like, okay, who's this Russell, or who is he talking to? Are they a meeting planner, or they're a hotel with the Marriott Singer Island? I mean, whatever it is, it gives them quick blurbs, and it gives them something else to talk about. Or something else to wait for. But what I purposely do is that I don't show the same one twice, right? I won't show the same people twice. So if I talk to 11 people, I'm gonna go 11 days before you get to the first one again. So people are gonna start tuning in. Well, hopefully they do, right? That's the whole purpose for me doing that, for them to tune in. So yeah, so short-term video is good. Like I said, up to a minute long. Boom. I throw a little music on there as well, in the background. Sometimes people like to hear that, and sometimes that gets more views because it has a certain type of music attached to it as well. So yeah.
You know
Great.
what I appreciate, Russell, is how you interweave these concepts of authenticity and visibility using social media to really help amplify your presence, as well as to amplify what is it that you're speaking on and talking about. Uh-oh.
You did,
Am I
but
back?
you're
Yeah,
back.
you're good.
Okay, sorry about
Yep.
that. But my question's leading up to, what about the person who is still trying to grasp how they can use their brand to really like elevate their work, elevate the impact, elevate how they're going to bring forth, business outcomes. How can this result in career opportunities? I can imagine some might be thinking, okay, so I say some things on social, I try to be consistent, but how is this really going to turn into business, essentially, for me? What are your thoughts to someone who thinks like that?
Well, you become if you're consistent like you say you are, and you're talking about what you know. Like I only talk about hotels. I'm not all over the board talking about hotels one day, and now I'm selling real estate, and now I'm doing I trade on. I'm a day trader on the side. You know what I mean? I'm not. I may do all those, but I don't talk about those things, right? So I focus on the thing in hand, what I know the most of, right? And that's I'm Russell of hotels. I'm not Russell of anything else but hotels, and that all falls within the hospitality space, right? So I don't venture out, like I said, I don't venture out and talk about other things. But what I will say is that what am I going to say? The like I said, just staying visible and staying consistent is the key. So talk about what you know, stick to that, be the expert on those things. Okay. Like I said, I only talk about things within the hospitality space. Okay. And I try to come up with three things. Let people know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. Okay, those are three things. Remember the old elevator pitch thing that we talked about years ago? Oh, get your elevator pitch, and when you get in an elevator, you go up floors and you let people know all that information, right? Well, if you narrow it down to those three things, that's pretty simple to let people know who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Bottom line, you ain't gonna be able to help everybody, right? Because everybody's not gonna
Mhm,
need what I have, right? What I'm offering, okay?
mhm,
But it's just getting in that mindset of being consistent, letting people know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. And like I said, and just stay to those things. I mean, I've gotten opportunities just based on that because they see you a lot too. So once you become that go-to person or the one that and you have to believe in yourself, right? I got to believe that I'm Russell of hotels, that I know a lot about hotels, right? So it comes with that whole confidence thing too. Some
mhm,
people kind of waver on, well, do I really know this? Can I really be the expert on this? Well, I amassed over 30 years of experience, not just in sales, but I started off in operations. I started off as a housekeeping manager, trainee with Marriott, and worked my way up to, food and beverage, front office, assistant general manager. I went from a select service hotel, which is like a courtyard, to a full service hotel. Back then, that was unheard of to even make that leap. You
mhm,
either were at select service or you were at full service. There was no in between. That was long before like management companies came. Now I'm giving you probably more information that you probably need, but hotels have transitioned. I've seen all the transitions from, like I said before, when everything was corporate based, like Hilton had all the properties and Marriott owned all the properties. Then they came these things called management companies where Marriott and Hilton didn't want to own everything anymore. They had more franchises. Then we started working with franchise companies and learning those things. But the people that had a solid base from the corporate, like a Marriott, we were able to transition over because we knew all the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and we could apply those things. So that's where I come from. See, so I can say that I'm confident in what I'm saying. So the people that are out there that may not, maybe on the fence about doing this, just make sure you're confident about what you're doing. Make sure you want to be the expert. You can be the expert because you're doing all these things. So be the expert and put it out there. Put it out there. Be consistent. And there you go. I mean, I've gotten jobs or opportunities based on what they saw me on LinkedIn. I mean, I got
mhm,
opportunities to speak at what was it? It was an industry kind of thing where I was a guest speaker. A couple of times I've been a guest speakers. I've been in college, a dean of students for hospitality at Long Beach State asked me to come and speak to her students, her senior level students. I mean, things like that came up because of my presence on social media.
Yeah.
One thing, can I jump in, Rhea? Okay. One thing I wanted to go back on though, I hear you. I've been getting schooled on that in terms of not being everything, right, and being the expert in what you're doing. But there is one thing that you do, and I think you do that for a particular reason. I think that is different than it's within the hospitality genre, but it is different that you talk about, which is non-meat eats. And I think you do that for a particular reason, right? And
I
that is a little part of your brand. I think that's part of your brand. Am I right? And so
that's part of
just
that's
just
part of
give a
who
little.
I am as a person.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I guess you can say that. Now, non-meat eats, for people that don't know, is my way of saying I don't eat meat. I'm a vegan. My lifestyle, or my what I eat, and not my lifestyle, is my what I consume. I don't eat meat, so I'm a vegan, right? So I do eat a lot of plant-based or only plant-based foods, and I will post those things, right? And I coined the tag hashtag non-meat eats. Instead of putting vegan all the time, I wanted to be known as the person that does non-meat eats. So yeah, so I did.
Yeah.
In fact, today, funny you should say that. Today I'm in Houston, and everywhere I go, I'm trying to find several, the community, the vegan, community. And I found one. I found a couple. Every time I come here, I go to a different restaurant. So I found one just earlier today that had they call them. It was instead of chicken and waffles, they call them shrooms and waffles. So fried mushrooms, cooked just like they were fried chicken on
Mhm.
top of waffles. Oh my God, you talking
Yeah.
about something that was so good.
So, as someone who eats meat regularly, I just think that's a differentiator. And because I will see on his show that I've watched before. I don't know if you still do it. It's been a while, brother. I have to go back and catch a new one. But on his show, that was the segment that was mentioned in there, right? It seemed
Yeah,
like either at the very
yeah,
beginning. So,
yeah.
all
You got
right,
it.
here's another one that just tickles me is AI and AI and branding. And again, as I said at the top of this, Russell's my go-to guy. And I remember, was it 2 years? I think it was, man, I don't think it was quite 2 years ago. I think it was just last year. You tell me, Russell. He did he did a one of his segments and it was AI. It was him, but it was AI, and it was sounded like his voice, but it was AI. And he was saying, this is AI doing this, like his segment, this little, short little segment. And it just, my head exploded when I saw it because I knew I could tell, but it was really good. And I'm like, man, hey, I need to figure that out. How do I do that? And so just this past weekend, I'm working on a speakers reel, and in the speakers reel there is some AI in there, and I sent it to my board of directors, Russell being one of them, and right away I got a call from Russell and said, if someone had asked you 3 years ago, would you ever be using AI? What would you have said? I would have said, what are you talking about? Where is AI? How do I log in to AI? Because that's what I said. So, Russell, there's so much buzz around AI, right? And with branding. So, where do you see the value of the AI tools, and where should people still lean into to be able to make it their own? Because we did have this sort of conversation about, does it sound quite like me or not sound like me? 80, 90% of the people are not going to know anyway, right? They've never met me. So,
Mm.
what are your
Yeah,
thoughts, sir?
I I use AI. I'll say that. I'll use AI. Yeah, you mentioned something that's about 2 years ago. Actually, that's about 2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, someone I hang out with people that are younger than me, and they tend to come up with all these things, right? I was trying this. It's called HeyGen, which is now everybody knows HeyGen.ai or HeyGen.com. That's HeyGen.ai or .com, one of those. So I was kind of not necessarily, not that they gave me the right to test it, but someone that worked for them and that I knew gave me like free things so I can test it out. And that was part of that test that I was doing, right? And it's great just for little blurbs. Like say I couldn't do something all the time, meaning like say for my show on air with Russell of Hotels, I wanted to promote it, right? Instead of me always taking out my camera and saying, hey, every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, hey, check me out on, on LinkedIn and YouTube. Instead of me doing that every week, I used AI to do that. So for little blurbs like that, I think is good. But the longer form things, it doesn't get your personality or your emotion. Yeah, you may capture your voice, like we talked about, you and I, Victor, we talked about. I knew it was AI, of course, but it sounded like you. It did have your sound, right? But you can tell just the emotion, the inflection of words and things like that. How I know you would speak, it
Yeah.
doesn't do that, right? So the emotional piece of it is different. But I use it for, like I said, the short term reels. I'll use it for. I'll ask it for to give me ideas on some of the topics I come up with, and what I love about it is that you can put in there. Can you give me topics for on air with Russell of Hotels? But think like Russell of Hotels, because I put in so much stuff in it. It knows me, right? My Chat GPT knows me, right? So I'll say something like that, and it'll come back with something that's formatted and based what I would say or how I would say it, right? So, and it's I mean, and I mean, I still have to do work, right? I still have to. I'm the one that has to go on the show and do it. It's not doing that for me. And
Yeah.
that way, because I can be real silly, AI is not going to be silly. Okay, AI is not going to be as silly as I can be. Only I could do that. So, but no, it's a good tool to use. It'll take some of the office work that I have to do, like letters and I mean, right now I'm pitching to certain hotels for certain things. I mean, it takes all the work away from me. Instead of me spending an hour to do it, it'll spit it out in 5 seconds. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it does definitely, but it's not the end all be all. Don't think of it like that. Just think of it. It will help you. It will enhance what you know, and maybe even come up with some things that you didn't even think about. And I think that's the tool that you use for me. Now, as far as hospitality, I think because I'll ask people, okay, just real quick, I'll ask people, they're working on their marketing plan for next year. Okay, so this time of year, a lot of hotel directors, sales, and general manager working on their marketing plan. I was on the phone with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they told me they're working on their marketing plan. And while I was talking to them, I typed in some things on my Chat GPT asking about their hotel. If I'm doing a marketing plan, what would you make sure was included in a marketing plan? As I'm talking this, having this conversation. Within like 5 seconds, it spits out some stuff and say, "Hey, did you thought about this? You thought about that? Where do you get that information from? How do you know our property?" And it probably wasn't here in California. I didn't really know the property or the area or the competition, new properties that are coming in. So those things will help you out, right? So if you didn't know that there was another property that was planned down the street from you, I mean, you should know that, but sometimes we don't know everything, right? Or that they just did a renovation, or you know, um, they're about to go a renovation, or something next door to them is closed, or whatever the heck it is. It could give you some information, some more insight, and that's how I would use it, just to make my job a lot easier.
Mhm. I think that makes sense. I'm sure that answered other questions. Sometimes people wonder if AI is going to take up the space that they're looking to take up, and it has access to all of this information. I'm sure it can say the same thing that I can say, but then that takes away from the authenticity that you bring to the table. And to your point, AI is a good starting point. It
Yes,
give you some ideas to consider,
yes,
but it's still you doing the strategic and critical thinking to really bring it to life and apply whatever it is that your information that you're giving to the right people in the way that they need to hear it. So I appreciate you making that really clear. And I know with the time we have left that we have about one main question regarding collaboration. So naturally, professionals, we collaborate a lot. I don't think we always think about how collaboration can help build your brand. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about how partnering with others, collaborating with others can do just that and help to increase your credibility, which can then also lead to future, business opportunities.
Exactly. So that's a good one. I like that one. Thank you. Collaboration. That's probably the most important thing that I've done that's helped me grow my brand. Because yeah, back when remember COVID. You guys remember COVID, and we had to. Everybody was trying to find what to do, find their place, I guess, and that's when a lot of podcasts started coming up, right?
Mhm.
And then there was this thing called Clubhouse that was audio only, kind of like radio, but you're talking to one person, and you may see an avatar of them, but you don't see them. It wasn't video, but they can hear your voice. And so I got caught up in that, caught up in it. I got caught up in Clubhouse, right? And I started not really understanding, but I started gaining a lot of, you know, followers, if you will, or people that were interested in my content or the things I was talking about. And those same people, when we got away from Clubhouse and came back to reality, I guess, and started coming back on the LinkedIn, those same people follow me on LinkedIn and they remember the conversation we had, the content about hospitality and things like that. And that's how I was able to gain maybe access to people internationally. Okay,
Mhm.
because I was just concentrating on what's going on here in LA, and maybe every now and then somebody in New York or someone on the other coast would make comments and like what I'm saying. That's when I knew that I had something, I guess, kind of special, or maybe I had more of a global reach, right? Because some of the things I was saying was reaching people. And then I was able to collaborate with them, meaning like on Instagram. One thing about Instagram, once you say you do a dual collaboration or a dual live with someone, do a live. If I did a live with you, Dr. Horton, and however many followers you had, let's say you had 1 million followers on LinkedIn, I mean on Instagram, and I had 5,000. Okay, well that's 1,000,000, 5,000 people that now I have access to. Okay, that I potentially will see what the collaboration that we did. So that's one good thing that people don't realize, that you not only get your followers, you get the other person's follower that you're doing the collaboration with. That's why that's important to create those kind of synergies, to do collaborations, right? So, and that's why I invite guests on my show on air with Russell Off Hotels or the daily check-in. So whoever, I mean, it may not be the joint thing like Instagram is, but on LinkedIn or whatever, you're getting more people's eyes on it, because now if I told them that I'm doing this with Dr. Horton, now people that know Dr. Horton are going to tune in, right? So that's what you want. And you want that, if you, like I said, if you can be more global, and a lot of people can be, they just don't think they have that capability, but they actually do, because these are all international platforms that we don't look at it like that. You can easily do business with someone in London than you can, that I can do in Houston. Okay.
Mhm.
So it doesn't, so we have to think bigger. And that's the thing. We have to think more global. We're just so focused on our local communities and all those things. But my job is to do as much as I can out there. So one thing that I also been doing, I got an opportunity to partner with North Star Meetings and do basically conversation, elevating people's brands through conversation. And the Victor was part of that. Well, he didn't know that he was a guinea pig. He was the first. He was a test person, and he allowed us to fine tune what Bruce and I were doing. But I was able to go to the North Star Meetings Group and do this with those 11 people that I talked about earlier. Because one thing, we go to these things, we show up at these conferences and meetings, but like I said, we leave and go back home. But did we leave better than what we were? A lot of times we did, right? Because we only saw the people that we saw. We only met the people that we met. We didn't meet everyone else, right? That's a good way, and it kind of segue back to the be present, have a presence without being present. Okay, that piece that I'm doing now, that was in the summer. Okay, we're in the damn near the end of the year, and people are still getting traction from that. It's
Mm.
all about being visible, right? And I'll end with that. It comes back full circle. all about being visible and being consistent and being authentic, right? Those people that I interviewed were being their authentic self. They're talking about their brand, their personal brand, and who they represented. If it was their own company, they talked about that, right? So those are the things that we need to think about when it comes to collaboration and visibility. Collaboration, you're gonna reach more people. Visibility, they're gonna see you, and that's what you want. I go to places now, and I don't know how these people know me. I'm checking in at the front desk at a hotel in, I don't know, New York, and a person says, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" I'm like, "No, I don't think so. I've never been to New York. This is my first time going to New York because I've never been to New York. Are you sure I don't know you?" And then he went through all this stuff. He said, "LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn." Now, how the heck would I know that this guy saw me? I mean, you just don't know. You just don't know who you're reaching. So there you go.
Well, thank you for that. In the spirit of collaboration, will all 28,000 followers of Russell just hit the follow button on Victor Simmons? Go on over to YouTube and smash that button so you can get me out of 16 subscribers and get me up to at least get me over. What did you tell me, Russell? The 150 are the hardest. So just I only need 130 of you to come on over to get me there. Okay, just 130. If more want to come, that's okay too. Let's pivot. Let's for our DEI folks that are tuning in or be tuning in later. I want to pivot for that. So just Russell, take a you can grab a glass of water or something, or you can chime in if you feel so. But I just want to touch on a couple of things when we're talking about personal branding. What we've heard today. Ria, quick question for you. What do you think this means specifically for our DEI folks? What do you think this means for them to be able to stay visible and be relevant when there is all this that's going on in the world today around DEI? What are your thoughts around that?
I have a couple that immediately come to mind. One is Russell talked about today, not many things that's outside the scope of their expertise, what they do every day. They try to demonstrate authenticity, they try to be consistent, they want the right or they want the visibility of what it is that they're doing, the impact that they're having, and so forth. So without realizing it, they are doing their own personal branding. It may be more geared to the efforts of the DEI office and the space and things like that, but they're trying to implement these things. And so taking a transition to apply it to one's personal, professional life is not that big of a transition, I would say. I think they just need to exercise it in a different way with a slightly different purpose of how to uniquely get their message, whatever that unique message is, out to others. And then I think it also gives them permission to lean more into those skill sets, especially authenticity, which I was kind of mentioning earlier. It is more of it's not a newish term, but more of a recently coined term, I would say, over the past few years now. So it's become increasingly popular. But at the end of the day, is how can you show up as your best to provide your best, professionally, whether that is because you're building your own thing that you want to enhance, or you want to build a better, stronger brand of who you are and what you can provide wherever your current workplace is. But to me, I heard it as a continual affirmation of keep doing it, keep being yourself, keep showing up yourself, keep being your best. Don't get held back by perfection. Like, just do your best, but keep moving forward. So that to me will help, I think, a DI professional move past all of the hangups of terminology and should I say and should I not? Should I be more palatable? Should I, like, you're getting caught up in frivolous things at this point, and you're losing the message, and you're not reaching the goal that you're trying to reach anyway by scaring yourself away. So instead, strengthen your brand.
Awesome. I think about myself. I had a conversation with our mutual buddy, Bruce, who was wondering if I should be going through and scrubbing my LinkedIn profile and doing away with anything that had to do with DEI. taking that off of there. And it was a rather robust conversation.
I'm sure. I know where you stand on that.
And and so you can look on my profile, you'll see where and I will say I did go through and update my profile, but it was really more of a practice of you should be doing that as someone anyway, making
Mhm.
sure that your brand is up to date, not that
Yes.
I'm scrubbing and running from DEI. I'm still retaining my core brand and who I am, and making sure that I'm up to date. AI was a big thing, and compliance is a big thing around that. As an HR, I'm not only an inclusion practitioner, DEI practitioner. I'm an HR practitioner. So I wonder
Mhm.
what's going on in the world of HR and what should be updated there. And I did those. So those of you that are listening in, I'd be curious to know. Drop it in the chat, and have you been making changes? What changes are those, or what questions you may have as we're about to shut down? We like to try to stay under an hour, but this has been such a great conversation. We're almost about to hit the hour. So um, I I had one other question. I'm going to go ahead and ask it. So Ria, do you have any other thoughts around how you can insulate or elevate, or do you think you already tackled that um, in your earlier response when we're talking about your role being misunderstood or being minimized or being threatened? Any other things that you want to recommend or suggest to our team out there?
I think I really want to lean in a bit to what Russell talked about with, will you have naysayers? Yes, you will. You'll have naysayers to eating salad. So you can't continue to be overwhelmed by potential naysayers when you believe what it is that you're doing, how you're contributing. You see the results of what it is that you're doing and how you're contributing. And if it's helping, not harming, so long as it's helping, then keep moving forward. And so, even if it's the brand that you're building is to support DEI efforts, and you're still trying to build a better and different whatever brand to maybe leaders who aren't familiar, aren't as open, that's fine. Continue to build the brand of, with those who are their trusted confidants and things like that, because eventually it'll seep into them. Will they change their mind? Maybe not, but will they continue to be, your hurdles and obstacles? Maybe not, because they realize, okay, that's it's not a good use of my time anyway. So I'm just gonna focus elsewhere. Whatever lie they want to tell themselves, I just don't want for anyone to feel as though they do need to wash themselves down, or they feel so misunderstood and beaten up, because that probably is also happening. But that might be from a handful of people that you have to deal with at strategic amounts of times. The rest of the time, insulate yourself with supporters, those who are interested in learning, those who believe in what it is that you're doing, and continue to make the impact. Because again, there's always going to be naysayers, but they may not have full jurisdiction over what you can do all the time. So I just want to, echo what Russell was saying in terms of the D&I space.
Wonderful, wonderful. I couldn't have said it. I couldn't add anything to that. That was fabulous. Thank you. How lucky am I to have a co-host in Dr. Horton? That was just wonderful. Russell, close us out. What's one thing you want people to remember about personal branding this year?
Well, go back and listen to the video. You'll see. But just do it. I mean, if you, like I said, we all start where you are, right? That's where I'm gonna say start where you are. Don't try to be someone else. Wherever you are in this branding or personal branding journey, start where you are and start from there and go forward. That's all you can do. You cannot worry about what other people are doing. Don't get caught up in that. That's one thing that I saw what other people were doing, but I want to do something differently. Okay, yeah, that's fine for them, but I got a different vision for what I want to do, right? So just don't get caught up in what other people are doing. Don't get caught up with what people are saying. Just be true to who you are, what you do, and how you can help people. and that's it. And start where you are.
Yeah. Love it. And be the expert. That was you just went, are you looking at my notes? I had all of those were the key things that I wrote to wrap this up. Branding starts with you. People are buying you, who you are,
You
what
got those from me, Victor.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You're reading my notes. This was what I wrote down throughout the show to wrap things up. You just read everything. The only thing that wasn't mentioned was that you had mentioned earlier was be the expert, that I love. Those were things that my notes that I was taking for me.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so that was awesome. Thanks everybody for making your way to the show. Hey, Ria, we are talking about, I wrote it down here somewhere. We got to talk about DEI for November. It is,
Was it? Or were we gonna kind of have like an end of year?
that's in December, but in November, entrepreneurship and consulting
Oh,
and
yep.
DEI. So
Yep.
I mentioned that so that anybody that's listening in that wants to talk about that particular topic, reach out to Ria or myself, because we wanted this in November. We want to talk about entrepreneurship and consulting in the DEI space, which is another interesting topic. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm going to hit the end in this stream, and then Russell, we're going to talk about this ring. I'm going to get more information on this ring.